Hello, it's Jessica Hicks, and I am happy to be talking about this subject with you today about millennials, as I am a millennial, right? And so, this is a continuation video of a video I talked about last week about why millennials have been really suffering during this pandemic. Let me adjust this a little bit. Okay. I think it's okay. Let me know in the comments if it's fine. But I'm going to get started. I just wanted to talk about this a little bit further. Last week, really what I digged into was the economics of why millennials were, and I say millennials, but I'm including myself in this, right? Why we've been suffering the most during this pandemic. Why? Well, a lot of it stemmed from the fact that millennials have been painted this education dream where you get a degree, you go into debt for a degree, and you go out to earn a lot of money. But what we saw is that pay has remained really stagnant and has not been equal to what the economy was with baby boomers. They could get a high school diploma, find a job easily, or go to school and find a very high paying job with that. So, along with that, college was less expensive. So, you have the scenario where they're getting high pay, college is worth it. So, that was passed on to millennials, that thinking, right? So, we talked about that. Then we talked about the fact that millennials really stepped into the working world. A lot of millennials, especially those that were like either in the middle or in the earlier, like they were the younger set of millennials, right? So they were entering a work world where there was a recession. So that meant more people were looking for jobs, which causes companies to say, hey, we can pay you less for the same work. So that's kind of where it's been from. Fast forward to this pandemic and where we're seeing a lot of millennials who are really suffering, moving back home with their parents, saying they can't, kind of move into other, I guess, facets of life where you're having kids or you're buying a house and you're doing all these things. So let me take a step back and look at who the millennials are. So who are the millennials? What is the age group? So I'm going to break that down just like I did in the other video. So let's show this. So we have this breakdown. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So we have this breakdown of the generations. We have the generations we don't know much about, like the silent generation, the progressive, gilded, lost generations, right? But really, what we normally are talking about are baby boomers, 1946 to 1964 is when they were born, Gen X, 1965 to 1980 when they were born, and then the millennials, which is 1981 to 1996. And I've even seen some reports now, an article by Forbes, where they were saying millennials are the folks that were born from 1980 to 2000. So they keep extending the millennial group, I guess, so it can make it easier for them to talk about. But really, that's who we're talking about, 1981 to 1996. Some people report some will report up to 2000, but generally, the millennials are in their 30s to late 20s for the most part, right? So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about this group. So in the past video, we talked about pretty thoroughly the economics of why millennials are suffering. Now in this video, and it probably shouldn't be too long of a video, but we're going to highlight how that translates over to the mental state and the emotional state of millennials as well. And so this report, this is through the Washington Post. This is where we started with a lot of great highlights in here with, the fact that millennials are highly educated, but yet we're making less. So that is where a lot of it stems from. And there's a lot of different charts and stuff in here that you can take a look at. A lot of it's kind of talking about the job losses that happened in 2020 and how it's really affected millennials. And hello, Butterfly Ness, welcome in. And I saw Cherish in here too. So I'm going to move over to an article. Try to share my screen here. But the title of it is Lonely, Burnt Out, and Depressed: The State of Millennials' Mental Health in 2020. And it goes into, not only are we having these economic issues, but it's really turning us into, I shouldn't say all of us don't feel this way, but a lot of millennials are having so much money stress, and we're lonely. Like, we're not building the families that, generations prior to would have done by a lot of our ages. So they're suffering from loneliness with the pandemic. And also in the workplace, I think we're actually the biggest group of folks in the workplace right now, and we're working a lot. And so there's a lot of burnout. So this article really talks about that and just how people are struggling. So I'll share that one. And then there's one other one, let me pull it up, that I want to talk about. I think I might have lost it. And then I'll share my screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Oh, and hello, Minister Terrence. I see you. And hey, Pandy, welcome in. So I was just kind of giving a high level walkthrough of what we were talking about before when it comes to millennials and why millennials are suffering. We just highlighted who the millennials are, noting that they are the folks that were born from 1981 to 1996. And some reports even say, they will say 2000, which I don't really agree with, but it is what it is. Okay. So since audio has not been working, I don't know if I can really share this, but I'm going to try. Let me see if I can. Hold on a second. I need to make sure my volume's on. I was not the best prepared today. I will say that. Uh-oh, I'm echoing. Hold up. Oh, man. Okay. Let's see. Maybe that will work. Sorry. I know last time I wasn't able to share any volume, so let's see. I'm gonna go share screen, share audio. Let's see if this works.
It's in a century economic disaster.
As anxious and unsettled as maybe I've ever felt.
Am I going to make enough to really feel comfortable, or, just to make ends meet at that point?
I just felt really betrayed by the system.
For those of us that graduated into the worst economy since the Great Depression, many of us haven't gotten over it.
I had this idea and this dream and this vision of where my life was going to go. And then I had to put it on hold because there weren't jobs out there.
I still haven't recovered from 2008.
Recessions, while terrible for most everyone, are particularly awful for those just entering the job market.
If you enter the labor market at the wrong time, which this generation did, you're going to have ongoing problems. They're not transitory, they're ongoing.
And right as some of us millennials were finally getting back on our feet, bam, pandemic.
I think it's fair to say it couldn't have come.
I'm going to pause just to make sure. Can you guys hear this video? If you can't, please let me know in the comments. I'm going to keep going.
At a worse time for them.
For the first time in modern memory, we're having to confront an ugly truth that my generation will be worse off than my parents and grandparents were. Not because of anything we did or didn't do, but simply because we were born in the wrong years.
What our parents told us what our adult life should be it just didn't work out.
This is Think Again with me, Andrew Stern, where I take you every step of the way as I dig into compelling, complex, or controversial topics that make us wonder, do we need to think again? Unless you have a private yacht to escape to, this pandemic has been excruciating for just about everyone. It's too early to know which generations will be most injured by this. That'll take years to sort out. But one thing we do know is that the 1-2 punch of the Great Recession, followed by COVID-19 in the span of just 11 years, is an economic challenge different from anything we've seen before. And as fate would have it, the timing is uniquely bad for my age group.
Millennials have lower rates of employment.
And I 100% agree with that, because you have this dynamic where, you came to work during a time of the recession. You haven't been paid your wage, what you really should be paid, especially as a Black woman. So I have another video talking about that in, detail. But you're at a point where you're just now starting to earn something that is, more worth it for you and in your, different industries, and starting to maybe think about kids or buying a house or different things like that. Yet we have now the pandemic. So let's see what this lady has to say.
Employment overall, they have lower earnings, lower savings, and then layered on top of that, they have debt, which of course is deeply related to that lower employment and lower earnings that they carry with them over time. And they're carrying all of that into this particular economic crisis.
The ethos of America is upward mobility. The American dream is built on the promise that each generation builds upon the previous one, and quality of life improves steadily. For as far back as U.S. Census data goes, that's been true. Household wages have risen relative to previous generations.
That is, until Gen X handed the baton to us.
Across the education spectrum, we're earning less than the previous generation. But why? We're the most
educated group, but yet we're earning less.
Diverse, most educated, most productive generation in American history.
But from an economic standpoint, we could not have been dealt a worse hand. Twice. And as I learned from the experts, it all has to do with timing.
When a recession happens, the impacts are often uneven. These cohorts who are coming of age during economic downturns, unfortunately, experience really, really strong negative economic impacts. They come out to a very difficult labor market, and it's hard to get a good first job. It may be hard to get a job at all, but if they do get a job, they're likely to get a job that's maybe lower pay and lower quality than the job that they would have gotten had they graduated a bit earlier.
In 2008, 9, or 10, I think most of us were pretty happy to have a lousy first job, just so long as we had one.
And that is deep, because that first job really does set you up for the rest of your career. So if you're starting in a lower pay, a lot of times that really messes up your trajectory. So I talked about this before. Why has it seemed like millennials move companies all the time? Well, the fact is, a lot of times we did not start out with a high pay, and most companies don't negotiate after you already started with them. It's kind of like they got you. It's almost like a marriage, right? If you hear people make statements on you got married and then everything kind of went downhill from there, they didn't work out, they didn't keep themselves looking nice. Well, that's kind of similar. A company they feel like they have you, right? And so you did a negotiation in the beginning, you accepted a job. Well, what's been the standard over the past couple of years up until recently, and now we are in the pandemic, is that companies would just give you that increase of maybe 3%, inflationary increase. Some companies are better, others are not. But, that first job really does set you up, because you're going to base that, whatever salary you're getting or whatever hourly rate, you're going to base that for future jobs. So if you're already lower, it makes it harder for you to really get to the compensation that you really deserve and at your market rate. And again, for women, for people of color, you already have, something against you because companies are already starting out at a pay that's not the equivalent of the white male that may be doing the exact same job, same experience. So it's already a challenge. Now, taking a step back, knowing the economics of what's going on with millennials, we get to this point where the job market is just booming, right? It's booming. Jobs here. I'm busy as a recruiter because we've got so many jobs, not enough people to fill them, right? So that's the ideal market for a person that is looking to increase their income and they're in the workplace because they know that companies will pay a premium to get your talent into the company because there are not enough people. Right? There's more jobs. These companies are growing. Well, now they're competing for people. And that makes for a really great economy, especially we call that, a job candidates market. Well, right when that's happening, making us millennials pretty happy, we come into this pandemic and now we're in this, place where there's a recession, 2020. Now, I will say job numbers are looking better, but it's not that booming place where there's just plenty of jobs, right? Plenty of jobs. No matter what state you go to, pretty much you can find a job. There's some places that are affected harder, like maybe New York, certain states too. I was looking at, I think it was it North Dakota? I was looking at the states that were most interested in jobs right now, and they were pretty random, of like remote places. That aren't really covered in the news as much. But you're in this place where, okay, well, we don't have that booming market anymore, right? So what do? Now, I do want to share, this is not a video, but an article where it talks about the kind of highlights of the mental state of millennials right now. So I'm going to share that because that's tough too. And let me look at a couple of comments in here. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you. Okay. Oh, hello, Jerry's Passion. Welcome in. Let me pause and take a look. And thank you, Gadget, and thank you, Pandy, for confirming the audio. I don't know why the audio wasn't working before last week. And thank you. I appreciate you, Gadget Goddess. Nice to see you. I'm so glad you were able to come in today. Catch up on you. Yes, Pandy is awesome. She has so much great content as well. Hey, Mr. 100 Rounds. Peace, love, blessings, people, positive vibes. Hope everyone's safe and may the blessings from God rain on all. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Penny, to see your part 1 of Jessica's Millennials. Thank you. Yes, Penny, thank you so much. All right. So, and hello, Jerry. Nice to see you in here. Thank you. All right. So, let me share this article and talk about this. Let's talk about it. So, and I'm going back to this one. So, Business Insider put out an article that was basically saying millennials had a lot of mental stressors. They're burnt out. They're lonely. They don't have any money. So just basically putting us on blast. Like, you guys are the saddest group. But what are they talking about here? So they're saying the state of millennials' mental health in 2020 was looking grim. And it definitely was because, and think about it, a lot of millennials, unless you went back home to live with your parents, we're alone. Or maybe we have a roommate. We're not living in this big family. And that can be very tough. Depression and deaths of despair on the rise among millennials, many of whom suffer from loneliness, money stress, and burnout in the workplace, which is very true. But millennials are changing the way people look at mental health. by being more open about their issues and destigmatizing therapy. That is true as well. So most of the points there, from what I see, definitely stem from the economics and how tough it's been to get to a place where you can have a family. You're kind of making those steps in American society. The other part of this is, and this is what I want to talk about and get some feedback on too, is just the fact that we're in this always on environment. So we're now in this place, and really millennials have always worked in this type of environment. Baby boomers have had the benefit to not have to be in this scenario, and also Gen X, but always on. You are kind of on call all the time. You have your email on your phone, you have Zoom, you have Skype, you have Teams, you have the email there, you have your work phone. I mean, you have it all. And there has been this expectation, and again, talking about America, to be available at all times. And even now with the pandemic, with some being, kind of benefited by the fact that they can work from home, they felt like they had to be on at all times. So I want to hear your thoughts on that. I know not everyone in here is a millennial, but there's an article that talks about specifically the burnout. Like, why is it that millennials, we're the group that has all the burnout? Because we're always on at work, and we're also always on with social media. We were the group that had social media from when we were kids, So we've always, even when we're not at work, we're still online in some way. We still have this need to be doing something, to be checking emails, to be on social, to be branding social here, be on YouTube, be on Instagram, be on TikTok, be on Snapchat, be on Facebook, be on Twitter, everywhere. You gotta be everywhere, right? And we were also the group that was looked at as the digital savvy ones. So with the baby boomers, they didn't know all the tech. Others, Gen X, they didn't know all the tech. So they were looking at the millennials for guidance, like what's the upcoming trend. So you had to be the one that was always up to date on things that are happening. And so that does require you to be online at all times. So there's a lot of different things that I would say go against the whole stereotype of we're spoiled, we're lazy, we're entitled, we're this, we're that. But I mean, we get all these complaints, yet at the same time, we're the most educated, we're the ones that's always on, we're the ones working the most, and we're still getting paid less. And how does that kind of trickle over into our personal life with us having less children? So there were actual statistics that thought that more people would have babies during 2020 because they were all home. No, we did not meet those numbers. So all that propaganda about the coronials and we're going to have all these babies, we are, but not to the level that it was thought. And there's some reasons why and some reasons behind that, I'm sure. But when I was looking at a couple of videos about it and how they were talking about the numbers were low as far as people having kids in 2020, a lot of it stemmed from, well, they're all at home and getting on each other's nerves and they don't have money. And if you don't have money, why are you going to have kids, right? So there's a lot of that too. So I'm going to go through this article because it talks about why millennials became the burnout generation. Let me see if I can do this. I'm actually trying to find out. I'm trying to find this one. I accidentally closed out and everything this morning, and so I had to open up these tabs again and try to find what I was looking for. That didn't go so well. And I couldn't find the one article that I wanted. Let me check my history, because I thought that one was pretty good. wasn't this one. I know it was by Forbes. Let me try to search that. Nope, that's not. Okay, wait. This might be it. No, that's not it. Let me see if this is similar. Okay. I'm going to check this one out. I'm going to be watching it along with you guys. The other video I watched already, but let's see what Jerome Powell has to say, I guess. Well, hold on. Oop, no, I don't want that. Okay. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Mr. Wander Rounds is asking people what their plans are today. My plans are not very good today because it's kind of rainy in Dallas, so I am not doing anything other than going out to grab some food from one of the local restaurants. Oh well, I give up. I tried. I tried to find it, so I would just rock with this one. I will rock with this one. Okay, so I'm going to share this. Don't need audio this time. I can't even find it. Sorry, guys. Okay, this is it. Okay, so this one really walks through just how we became this burnt out kind of group of people. So I'm skipping some of this because it's not really related. But they're talking about how, you know, we're seen as this group of lazy people, right? So we've dealt with that throughout our time, right? People just talking about us being lazy. But what it really comes down to is we kind of went into this world thinking one thing and we're just dealt a completely different hand. So a lot of people are burnt out because they are still trying to catch up. They're playing catch up because they weren't paid correctly. They're also playing catch up because they have this high amount of debt that they're trying to pay off. And I will be talking about in an upcoming video about slavery, how I do think everyone is enslaved. And that is a really big piece of it because we were that first group that had the highest amount of student loan debt. So what is the amount of student loan debt right now? I'm just gonna look it up. Like, what is the average? Because I know it's very high. So the average student loan debt in the United States right now is $32,000. Now, most borrowers are saying have between $25,000 and $50,000, and that's not even considering the folks that went to law school or went to get, you know, doctorate degrees. So you're in this place where you really step back. It's not like you're you're going into a job because you're passionate about it all the time. You're going into a job because you have to pay this debt back. You have to find some kind of way to do it. So that is a real key. And I'm going to go back to this video if I can, because there was a part in there where this guy was basically talking about not having any motivation. Let me see if I could find it, because I keep closing it down and then I need it again. I'm like, I need it. Let's use this one because I can't find it. Okay. Let me pull it up. This one's going to be a different one, but CBS has been making a lot of these. So let me stop sharing. And Barry, I saw you come in. I got to share with you that the audio worked. So I'm going to try it. Hopefully I am not jinxing myself here. So let's see if it works again. We'll see.
The 2020 presidential campaign over student loan forgiveness, proposals to relieve graduates from thousands of dollars in debt. 43 million borrowers in this country owe about $1.5 trillion in federal student loan debt. Mark Strassman looks at some of the impacts in our special Eye on America series, Life and Debt.
I'm about 134.
I owe $108,137.48 in student loans.
$22,000 on minimum wage. Even 2 jobs wasn't enough.
This will undoubtedly affect me far into the future.
Now it is making it extremely hard for me to change careers.
It's a huge part of every decision that I make.
If you want a good job, you have to go to college, but nobody really talks about the price.
Taylor Smith is a millennial on the move at this Houston tech company. But at 25, she has put off buying a house, getting married, and starting a family.
My debt has continued to build up as like.
Pausing that right now. So she has put off paying the debt, starting a family, having kids. All of that is put on hold. And when you get back to that article that's talking about, well, millennials are depressed, and you know, during the pandemic they had higher rates of depression. Well, you tag on the debt, the low pay, that kind of moves into how we're able to build family, which is typically a highlight of a person's life, whether you're a woman or a man. That does bring a certain, enjoyment, I guess you could say, into a person's life, especially at a certain age. So instead of doing all that, those things that naturally happen, I mean, you see that from just in nature with, if you're looking at animals, they get together, they have kids, right? And they, continue their legacy. Humans, we do the same thing. We have this desire to continue our legacy, to create. And millennials as a whole are doing, we're pausing that. We're saying we can't afford it. We can't afford the house, the kids. Only thing we can afford is maybe a little dog. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get a dog. That's all we can afford right now until we can pay down this debt and get started with our life. So very different from the baby boomers, where they didn't really start out with this type of debt. Any debt that they accumulated was consumer debt. So getting credit cards, buying the car, buying the house. But, when you look at getting debt for a house, you look at the net worth, that is equity you're putting into a home, right? We hear about that stuff. So it doesn't affect you in the same way as student debt. Okay, I'm going to go back to the video. And hello, Jazzy and Paolinda. Welcome in. And Barry Johnson.
One of my main stressors in life. I sacrificed the dream job to come home so I could take care of my bills.
And the diploma?
Yes, the most expensive piece of paper I own.
To pay for Texas A&M, Smith worked full-time.
I like that comment about her degree. She's looking at the degree and she's like, yeah, that's the most expensive piece of paper I own. I don't even put up my degree. It's not that I am not proud of my accomplishment, but it literally is just like a reminder of I paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for this degree, and I'm in a job where I really, if you think about it, you don't need this degree. So I have thoughts about companies requiring the degree, I really don't stand for that unless you really need it. Like if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, obviously you're going to need a degree. But for plenty of the jobs out there, you just don't need it. Tell people to get a certification and keep it moving. If they can do the job, if they can learn, then hire them. And I'm saying this as a recruiter. That's really my thinking on that. Okay, I'm going back to the video.
Time throughout college. She also cobbled together 11 student loans.
I probably graduated with about $53,000.
Oh, honey, 11, but that is the norm. So you go to the private loans, you have your institutional loans, you have your government loans through Sallie Mae or Navient, and you have the unsubsidized, the subsidized. You really don't learn about it until you have to pay it back. You really don't know what it means. It's just, here, sign here, you pay back after you graduate, right?
In student debt.
Did you understand what that number really meant?
That number hit me for the first time my last semester of college. And it was the first time I saw the full balance. And I had a panic attack immediately.
Panic attack.
An actual panic attack. Just thinking like, oh my God, I just got myself in $50,000 of debt.
Then she had to quit her first job, her dream job, registering voters in Colorado.
I was struggling to buy groceries. I was donating plasma and doing like psychological studies just to get a few extra dollars.
None of that would have been true without these college loans.
No, that was a big reality check, realizing like this bill that I have is what's going to hold me back.
43 million Americans currently have student debt. The average household with student debt owes almost $48,000. 5.2 million of them are in default. And college.
Did you guys hear that? How many people are in default? But what do you expect when you offer all these? So here's the thing, my thoughts on that. And I saw Jazzy's comment. It's just, it keeps snowballing, right? So you can literally put 18-year-olds, because that's the typical age of when you go to school, you can pass out loans to them, but you can't do the same thing when it comes to people that want to get a house or wants to get a business loan. Student loans, car loans, passing those out like hotcakes. But it's a liability unless you are very, extremely smart about what you study and you keep that loan very low. There's no limit on the loan. You can take out however much, but then people actually get mad when people or students don't use that student loan money, because there are stories where people have used it to buy a rental property or use it to invest in stock or do other things with it. Then people get upset. But no, that's a smart decision they made. They can't get a business loan, because who would actually get a business loan or really any type of loan to a student that doesn't have a job? Don't have a job, right? Oftentimes you have a very extremely low paying job, no degree yet. And so what else would they do if they're thinking they want to find a way to make some income and start a business or something? So that's just my thoughts on that. But yes, I 100% agree with you, Jazzy. I see Butterfly Nest saying, I don't put my degree. You don't put your degree up either? Yeah. Sad thing is, I don't even know. I think my degree is packed away somewhere at my mom's house, to be completely honest with you, because you guys know I went to New York, then moved to Dallas. So my mom still has a couple of my things at her place. I got most of it, but she has some boxes of mine. So I bet it's there, because it was not a high priority. I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of this degree, I'm gonna hang it up. No, I really don't care. I don't put my degree either. Change your nickname, you need to shorten it. Oh, really? I mean, my nickname is Jess. Sad to say, it sounds like a lot of pain. Yes, exactly. So it's like 2 more minutes, so I'll finish it up.
College costs keep rising. At Ohio State, a public university, in-state students pay $27,000 a year. An elite private school like Stanford costs $74,000.
We're telling individuals, just take on the debt, it's worth it. And the larger ramifications to their lives and our society are truly unknown.
Seth Frotman is the executive director of the Student Borrower Protection Center, a nonprofit watchdog.
Is student loan debt America's new financial crisis?
I think the student debt crisis is here with no end or change in sight and absolutely zero plan to tackle this at the federal level.
Teenagers with no credit history and no guaranteed job routinely borrow tens of thousands of dollars, loans guaranteed by the U.S. Department of Education.
The federal government will always get their money.
However they have to.
Say that again, the federal government will always get their money. So it's very interesting to hear all these politicians talk about we're going to pay off your student loans. Well, Joe Biden was the one that was fighting for these debts not to be able to be filed in a bankruptcy. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out.
We don't give student loan borrowers a second chance in bankruptcy. We let their wages be garnished. We even let their Social Security benefits be seized.
Taylor Smith still owes $49,000.
College can be life-changing. Are these loans also life-changing?
They absolutely are. The moment you get an
She still owes it because she's not even paying it. She's just giving up.
acceptance letter from a college, that's really the moment that you start taking on this debt.
Thousands of millennials now walk around with six-figure student debt. In one survey,
six-figure student debt.
60% of younger borrowers said they'd be in their 40s before their student loans are paid off. But it's not just
six-figure student debt.
Millennials. Jeff, this is a multi-generational problem.
Indeed it is. And Mark will be back tomorrow night here. We're going to look at the fastest.
So you talk about numbers like that. You talk about the fact that because of the debt, people are holding off on making life commitments like getting married, having kids, which is kind of the cycle of life, right? That's kind of expected progression of a person's life. And then you hear these statistics where you hear the majority of these folks in the millennial, and I know they said that every generation sees it. I know generations that come after millennials will see it if they want to go to school. But it's definitely affected our group the most. And I would say Gen X as well were affected, not as much because the rates, if I can find a graph, the rates of the student loans have significantly increased since Gen Xers have gone to school. But even they haven't even paid off their debt. So I'm going to have a discussion about Gen X too. But when it comes to the millennials, how are we going to pay that off? How are we going to move forward in life and do other things as well? So that's kind of my point there. As far as the emotional state, again, I'll share that article kind of talking about the biggest pieces of why millennials don't have the best mental state. And it was a lot of it was just due to high rates of depression, and then the issues with money stress. So at the root of it is still economic. So we can't really fix the mental health, the emotional health without looking at the economics at all. Like we have to focus on that. Let me look at some comments. And thank you, Pandy, for coming in. There was another article that I saw. I'm trying to look for it now. But it was actually talking about, I saw it yesterday, how millennials are even, it proclaimed that millennials were the unhealthiest group. And some of the things that were pointed out is that we work a lot of hours and we don't take the time typically to cook. Like the standard for a lot of us is to go out and eat. Well, we know that like doing that on a regular basis is not healthy. So I'm looking at one article specifically. It was put out by Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they're saying that millennials are called the burnout generation. And one of the stats in here is, we talked about depression. Major depression had the largest growth and prevalence among the top 10 health conditions affecting millennials. Also, millennial women are 20% less healthy than men. I talked about women, right? I talk about women typically, which is not the norm. Normally, women are the healthiest, with major depression being one of the main drivers. And a lot of the conditions are like type 2 diabetes, endocrine conditions, all these different things. So the majority of, we're going to kind of look at baby boomers and Gen X. The majority, 68% of baby boomers and Gen Xers think their mental health is good or excellent. So baby boomers, Gen Xers, they feel pretty confident about their mental health. However, only 49%, 49, so less than half, are saying the same. So in that other article, it was highlighted that millennials are more open about mental health, and so it's not stigmatized. Now, these stats could mean that baby boomers and Gen Xers are just not as comfortable talking about mental health. So we talked about this with women when we looked at women are suffering versus men. Well, a lot of surveys that were put out were you actually volunteering how you were feeling. And so men, we found out they're not typically as open about saying how they're feeling, in their emotional state. However, women were. So we're looking at this. I think we've seen it. There has definitely been less of a stigma placed around mental health. People are talking about it more. You see it talked about in all across social media. There's celebrities talking about it and highlighting it. Like, people actually are talking about it. You see employers actually implementing programs specifically geared towards the mental health of their employees. Definitely, we're in a place where we can have the conversation at least. So that may be a big part of it. But then at the same time, let me see if I can share this with you, because this may be good to actually see. I try to share because I don't want you to just think I'm making stuff up. I want you to see too. Oh, wait. Okay. So this is what I'm looking at. It's from Blue Cross Blue Shield. And so they were really analyzing it. So you see the section where it's talking about the percentages, about, how open they are to feeling that, they have a pretty good mental health state, or they don't in the case of millennials. Then we're looking at, kind of the means of it. So I talked about this earlier. We've been talking about the financial debt, consumption of social media. Again, millennials were that group that embraced and kind of had to use social media with Facebook. Like, when I was in high school, college, like, I was on Facebook, and then you of course, you saw Twitter and all these other things, but it was ingrained in our life where I remember spending hours on Facebook. I know it's really bad, especially in college, but hours on Facebook, because that was that time period where people were learning it. And we know this now, but psychologically, it was kind of a drug for us. The creators and a lot of the tech guys that invested in Facebook, or they helped to start up that company or branch out the company, they talked about this, how it really is, the adrenaline rush of getting a like and all these different things that really cause social media to be a drug to us. So consumption of social media, always connected work environments or heavier workloads with fewer resources. Yes. So I talked about this a little bit earlier. The fact that you have to be connected. Like, when I entered the workplace, it was always on, always on, always on, always on. You have no excuse because we're paying for your data plan, right? We you have no excuse because we're putting the email on your phone. I should be able to catch you. When you're on vacation, like, yeah, you can have your out of office, but you know, if something big comes up, we need to be able to catch you. So you kind of take that away. So those are the main points that I was talking about: the economics, the social media, the always connected, and then of course just pounding on more and more work because you have less people. More companies are very focusing on the cost efficiencies, and you have to do more with less in most companies. So all of these things are going to create more stress, more burnout, more depression, all of these things that past generations did not have to deal with as much and on the same level. So that's really the highlight of this video, and kind of focusing, taking it away from economics to how do we get here? What is the solution? How do we get away from this? Is it just we have to make sure we're in work environments where we don't have to be always on? But what does that look like? Everyone's not going to be in that type of environment. So what's kind of the answer? Let me see here. Barry saying bye to Pandy. A Better Tomorrow, and Mr. 100 Round said, wow. A Better Tomorrow is saying Biden's stimulus package gave billions to foreign companies when he could be taking care of U.S. taxpayers and residents. Some of that money could have gone to relieving student debt. Yeah, oh yeah, I agree. I mean, there's definitely an agenda. A Better Tomorrow, there is an agenda because I mean, to be honest, I don't really feel like our government cares about us. I think this country was sold a long time ago. The fact that we continue to funnel out money instead of actually addressing the issues that we have in this country first is just ridiculous. And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that America has done a lot of stuff to all these different countries. And it's almost like sometimes I kind of feel like it's just like we're paying hush hush money. Like what else has it? What else has the American government done? So I'm sure there's plenty of agendas, and they're really just not built for the everyday American person. Oh, I didn't even read it. Gonna catch the replay. Take a minute for you on the lake. Oh my gosh, stay safe. Be very careful. But that sounds like, well, it sounds like fun for you guys. I don't really like fish. I don't like fishing. Good luck. And we are expecting a third. Yes, we are expecting a third stimulus check. It should be $1,400. So here's the thing, though. I have my thoughts on that because I just think that sure it'll help some people, but it's a little too late. And it's kind of sad that people are waiting on this money to take months and months, and you could be doing other things to make some money, right? But the sad thing is, and I keep seeing different surveys of people asking, what are you going to do with your stimulus check? And some are saying they're going to spend it on, the necessities. Others are saying they'll pay off debt. Others are going to invest with it. But what I really think will happen to it is the same with the other checks. Like you'll see people at the mall. You'll see people buying, different things. And that money goes right back into the hands of the people that don't need it. So either way you go, whether you're buying the necessities, like you're buying food, clothes, whatever, that money still goes back into these major companies. So it doesn't really make a ton of sense on why. It's the only thing I can think of is just inflation. Inflation is a cost that we're going to have, but at the same time, a lot of the immediate money that's going out is going to go back into the company's hands. So the woman who doesn't exist says, I want to invest. I think a lot of people will do that. I just saw the price of Bitcoin. I keep burping. I'm so sorry. Let me drink some water. Okay. I just saw the price of Bitcoin was going up. It hit 60. Let me just double check myself. I don't want to lie to you. Bitcoin price. Yes, it is 60,000 at this moment. So that means, and I don't own a full Bitcoin. So let me see here. Oh, so I got a little bumps. That's nice. I hope it keeps going up. Part of me hopes it doesn't keep going up because I missed the chance when it was at 48 to buy more. I don't know why I didn't buy more, to be honest. I don't know, but I didn't. So it may still be lucrative though. So that could be a place where you can invest your money and get a higher return. I do have some Ethereum as well, and that price is close to 2,000. And so I do have more Ethereum than I do Bitcoin. So we'll see about how that goes, how that increases. Okay, a little bit there. Yes, the price of Bitcoin. Yes, that is a full Bitcoin. $60,806 is what it's saying the price is now. So there's some money to be made in crypto, but I mean, I guess you just have to be careful and ride out the roller coasters because it definitely goes up and it goes down. So you can't be someone that if it goes down, that's when you want to sell. You definitely want to sell on the high end. But a lot of people say that there's a long-term benefit of holding Bitcoin where the market cap or market valuation for Bitcoin will continue in the trillions. I think, what's the market cap now? I thought it was like 1 trillion. Let me try to look it up here. Market cap, not market cap, market valuation. The market cap is 600 billion, it looks like, but what's the valuation? Yes, 1 trillion. I was right. But yeah, it's got a $1 trillion valuation. Well, geez, what is Google's market valuation? I wonder. That's interesting. All of the tech stocks are going down, so those may be some good ones to look into. But anyway, I'm just kind of chit-chatting now. Is at the full price. The Better Tomorrow says hold a crypto is better than leaving money in the bank. Yeah, because of inflation, for sure. That is true. And you don't get anything. And you know what's interesting? Even USD coin, they have interest. Let me look up what that was last. USD coin was paying how much? I want to say it was 15. Well, this says 12%. This says 1.25, so maybe that's it. But I know some of the coins will pay you interest. The woman who doesn't exist, yes, I will hold it. That's good. Well, you don't tell me you don't have to tell me how much, but I hope you got a significant amount. So you see some really nice gains because obviously the more you have, the better. But I really think that Bitcoin will be on the level where you will, like you hear about the Satoshis, right? So you'll have so much Bitcoin and only a certain percentage, like today, will have a lot of that Bitcoin. So those earlier adopters that bought in and they bought like, I don't know, 30 Bitcoin. And so now they have all of this, or they bought 100 Bitcoin or whatever. And they held on to some of it. But then you'll have the people that buy in later where they're only able to get Satoshis, or they're only able to even get, I don't know, it could be breaking down even more because you have the Bitcoin, you have the Satoshis, and you have so many ways that you can break it down. It's way better than if you just look at the price of money, because you can't you can only break down a dollar, quarters, nickels, dimes, pennies. That's all you got. But when you look at Bitcoin, you can break this thing down. You can do 0.0000. And what does that all mean, right? So I think there will be a lot of people that will get the, I don't know, 1/10 of a Satoshi or something, and that'll be what they have. So we'll see. We'll see how it actually translates. And for my thinking of Bitcoin, it should be used as a holder of your money, kind of like gold. So Instead of just putting it in the bank, as A Better Tomorrow said, you can put it into Bitcoin so you know that it'll hold your money against inflation. So you actually grow your money versus just losing it to inflation. So anyway, this video went a little longer than I thought it was going to. I was planning to just make a really quick 15-minute video. Half of the video was me looking for my stuff. I am so sorry. I was not as prepared today. I kind of jumped on. I was like, oh my gosh, it's 1 o'clock. I gotta go. So thank you all for being here. The next video you'll see is I did a short video. It's like 15 seconds long, so keep an eye out for it. But it's just like in a really quick highlight. It's how I want people to start looking for jobs versus what they're doing now. So I'm showing what they're doing now versus what I want them to do and what really can be more beneficial for people. So again, it'll be like, I'm gonna edit it. I might make it slightly longer, but it'll be less than a minute video. So definitely check that out. And then of course I have coming up the companies video, that what companies are hiring. I need to edit it. Editing stinks. I hate editing, but I'm gonna do it because I want to share the companies that are hiring now. And then I will be doing some type of trivia tomorrow, highlighting women because it is still Women's History Month. I just had to think about that. So actually, a question for you guys for Women's History: is there anything that you're interested to know about Women's History Month, or are there any women in history or in business right now that you would like to know more about? Because I'm kind of at a standstill. I kind of don't know. I don't really know where I want to go with my next trivia. And I talked about this on another video, but I'll probably stop doing the Sunday trivias after this month of March, just because I feel like, to be honest, like to be on Saturday and Sunday is getting to be a bit much. And for the trivias, I don't really have a ton to like share, a lot of knowledge to share. Or at least I don't know if people are enjoying it or what's going on. So I'm going to take a break from it after March. I just want to make sure I celebrate Women's History Month, and that's the way that I felt like I could easily do that. And it's also kind of a continuation of Black History Month too. So I'm going to wait to see if anyone has any thoughts on women's histories, or anything you'd like to know. If I don't see anything, and then I would just hop off of here, and I will let you guys have your Saturday. Hopefully you guys are doing something fun. And we learn from a better tomorrow. So hold on to our Bitcoin. I will be doing that. Oh, I just saw Penny share my video. She's so sweet. Okay, I'm not seeing a comment in here, so my brother just texted me. He said it's 75 degrees in Dallas. He's not even in Dallas, he's in St. Louis, but he just texted me about our weather. It must be cold in St. Louis right now. Okay, well guys, I'm gonna get off of here. If you do have some ideas for me, check me out on Instagram. My handle there is just Jobs from Jess. You can always message me if you have an idea or you have a question for me. I will be talking about the jobs, but then I'll also be getting more into the quick 5-minute to 10-minute videos on just like general advice for job seekers. So keep an eye out for that type of content, and I will see you lovely people in the next video.